So first of all, I like the changes to the combat and having more moves that you can perform. You have the typical light attack followed by a heavy attack combo. Then there are four special moves by holding the right trigger and pressing one of the face buttons. Those special moves are important because now officers have fortitude, which is like guard, that you can break, and it's represented by the shields that are below their health bar. Once their fortitude is broken, you can really go in on them and do a lot of damage. You still damage their health with normal attacks and damage their fortitude, but breaking fortitude opens them up to even more damage and it dazes them, so they're immobile for a minute. And you have options for these special moves. It's not just the four you have by default. There are only five, I think, available in the demo. I think that there's more, but you can set all that up in the pre-battle prep. The officers are more aggressive, it seems like, so blocking and playing a little bit more defensively is something that you have to think about. You can still wail on them with attacks, but I was doing more guarding and counter attacks, which is another thing that you can do than I've done in other Dynasty Warriors games. You can counter an attack if you press the guard button at just the right time, and you can lock onto enemy officers, which is very helpful when you're focusing on taking out one guy, but you're vulnerable to attacks from enemies you aren't in front of. You don't have a good way to deal with multiple officers. This is not like the Batman Arkham games where the camera zooms out enough that you can see other officers approaching. And the officers have unblockable moves that you need to get out of the way of. There is a dedicated dodge button. And what I noticed is that you can't just spam the dodges and expect it to work. When I was fighting Lu Bu, at least, I needed to time those dodges, otherwise I was going to get hit. Between having officers with their special moves and unblockable attacks, foot soldiers can also have special moves that are unblockable. There are archer barrages that can interrupt your animations. It's just a lot all at once. I was kind of overwhelmed by it. And for this next little section here, I am stalling a little bit because I do want you to be able to see that I did, in fact, beat Lu Bu. This probably took me like an hour to finally be able to actually beat him. It took so many tries to get this right, but I did finally get it done, and I was very satisfied when I did. Foot soldiers can do their own special moves as well. Watch this group that came right at me there. They'll charge at you as a group, and you either have to get out of the way, or there's a button press combo to counter it, which is right bumper and B. There's a lot of button prompts this time around, which is a criticism that I have about the demo. You're constantly getting alerts for button prompts to counter something or do a special move. It's a little overwhelming how often that happens, and I found myself needing to back off from large groups and reorient myself so I could figure out what I'm doing. There's two more interesting additions. The first being that you have command over a group of soldiers. It's about 20 of them in this demo, or 21. You can't spam commands, but once you fill the ability meters, then you can use it. There's no timer, but it is on a timer. I watched the recording back, and even when I'm not doing anything, the meters are filling. Timers being shown would be helpful, because for a while I thought kills were filling the meters. So you can have them charge, fire arrows, or surround an enemy. There's another one, but I don't recall what it is. But you do have some choices for what commands you can assign to them. And these commands are genuinely helpful. They can help clear out enemies or break an officer's fortitude. Although when you're not giving a command, your soldiers don't seem to do much. I was hoping they would attack enemy soldiers more. You can choose one of 3 officers to take with you as a companion, or you can go solo if you want to. It'll be some other officer in your army. They don't seem to do much either. I mostly forgot that they were there. Sometimes, if your companion or another friendly officer is close to you, they can assist with your special moves, the ones with the right trigger and the face button. They hit as well and do more damage on top of yours. I do want to show you this clip because I think it's a good example of what I'm talking about. And I know it's hard to see, I did my best with the zoom, but my companion is back there and he's attacking some regular soldiers, but he also kind of stands around and walks around a little bit, and he's not over here helping me fight this officer right now. If you're going to have a companion system like this, I would like that companion to be around more consistently, not walking away and fighting a few enemies someplace else and not engaging with the fight that you are currently in. Because I'd love to use these special moves more often in conjunction with my companion, because that's cool. That's a cool move to pull off, and I'd like to do it more often. It just doesn't happen very much. This is another clip I want to show you that illustrates that teleporting. So I'm the big green arrow, and the smaller arrow behind me is my companion. You can see I'm moving around, but that arrow is not moving. But once I move far enough away, all of a sudden that arrow disappears and reappears right next to me. And then they do it again right here, where I'm moving away, and then they teleport. So they're not with you all the time. They're not actively following you. And here you can actually see it happen. They're way behind me. They're not next to me. They teleported once, and then I look behind me again, and they teleport right there. And I know that Dynasty Warriors games are janky. I mean, I started with Dynasty Warriors 3 way back in 2001. But in 2024 and beyond, depending on when you're watching this, to be teleporting that blatantly is a little much. The other thing about companions is that you can switch to them. Once that Masu gauge underneath their health bar fills up, you can change to that character. And it's only temporary. You can't continuously play as that character, which is kind of disappointing that you can't switch back and forth between the characters, because I know in this game that they want you to play as this wanderer character, this like generic just warrior guy. But I do want to be able to play as all these characters that I'm familiar with, but that's not what this game is about. It is nice that it lets you do that, and they do have their own combat arts that are different than the Wanderer. So when you're playing those characters, they have their own move set. So from what I've played in the demo, I'm definitely interested in this game. I do want to play it when it comes out. It is, I think, technically the 10th Dynasty Warriors game, but it's not called Dynasty Warriors 10. It's Dynasty Warriors Origins, which is something different than number 10 mainline Dynasty Warriors. As I mentioned, you can play as other characters by switching to them temporarily, but I do want another Dynasty Warriors games where I can play all of the characters that I know and that I like playing. So what I'm hoping for is that they're testing things out with this game, what features people like, what they don't like, and then when it comes around to Dynasty Warriors 10, they can incorporate some of, all of, whatever of the mechanics from this game into that game. I know that's jumping ahead, but I am eager for these games to take a step in a different direction with the combat that is a bit more involved, a bit more engaging, still allows you to destroy hundreds, thousands of enemies like you always do in Dynasty Warriors games. I welcome fresh ideas that this game is giving me and giving the series. I didn't play Dynasty Warriors 9 because I did not hear good things about it, so I don't know how many of these mechanics were actually in that game, but if Origins is any indication, I think the future of Dynasty Warriors as a series is on the right track, mostly. There are a few complaints that I had that I talked about during the rest of the video, but generally it's going in the right direction.